right. Let's
Wheeze back.
let's move this a little bit back. There we go. There we go.
Excellent
I just
day.
messed my wrist up.
Oh,
I was
no.
just like,
Ugh.
Facebook is building an audience. So yeah,
We had our little break, and now we're back.
we had our
Ready for
little
more.
break, our little siesta. So now we're just here. Like, any questions? Very open.
Anything you want.
IBCLC, CNN, RN, Dame,
Ask me
Hot
anything.
Mess,
No.
who knows a lot of things about products.
A lot. A lot.
So we're just here hanging out. I'm having wine. Sherry is not.
No, I'm not drinking tonight. It looks like wine. I finally mixed the right concoction to have a close color to make it
It's
feel
very
like
similar.
wine, but it's
Feels
not
right.
wine. It's not wine.
Come to Hawaii. I wish to God I could.
We could do
I
one
have
there.
I
Let's
have
go to Hawaii.
2 states left before I've hit all 50, and it's
Oh,
Hawaii,
really?
Hawaii and Alaska.
Oh, you're kidding me.
That's
You've
it,
done-
and then
you've
I'm
been
done.
everywhere?
Yeah. When I was on tour, you go everywhere.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
So I have 2 states left: Hawaii, or Hawaii, as we said in college as a joke, and Alaska.
I think we should go to Hawaii for one.
I would love that.
I would love that too.
Even Flow, if you're out there.
Just a suggestion.
We are
If you'd
also
like to-
we are also trying that with Nordstrom. So we shall see.
I can't see, so I'm going to lean forward.
Oh my goodness! People are asking nursing questions.
Can
on
you
here
bring
too.
it closer?
I can
Is
a
it
little bit. I can a little bit.
If I had it just a
But
little bit closer, I can read.
I
some.
don't. Oh God, sorry. I don't have my mini tripod with me.
I have one.
Hold on. Oh my goodness.
I can't see.
Okay, everything's okay. You need it to be Thursday next week. You need Gearpalooza in your life. I'm excited. It's my first time doing Gearpalooza in Detroit. Laura Michelle says she's very torn on weaning.
It's so hard. It's so hard to make that decision. You know, it's like you want to do it, and then there's some part of it that's going to really miss breastfeeding. I know that. So really be sure about the decision. And as we talked about in the last hour, it's not all or nothing. So maybe just start doing a little bit at a time. Don't give it up completely. Save those like first morning feedings or those ones right before bed that are like the best to cuddle with your baby. And you know, you could keep feeding first thing in the morning for a long time and still cut out the middle of the day feedings if that's what you want to do. So be sure.
There are 2 questions now. 03. Shannon Ford, convertible car seat recommendations. I just did 2 huge videos on the new Rava. If you have questions about the Rava, I love it. Obviously, I'm a big Kleck fan. I love Peg Perigo. I really like the Bredex Click Type for some people. Pico Next Fit is great. So you have to look at all your car seats and kind of gauge everything. Someone also asked, I forget how many months in, I think it was 4 months. Is it normal for baby to only want to nurse on one side?
Mine did. Yes, it's very normal. Earlier we were talking about breast capacity. Your breasts are independent of each other, by the way. So some people can have, most people make more milk on one side than the other. So most people have a dominant. Here's Lucky. Here's my little baby. That's my baby now. That's my baby. So most people have one side that makes more. Just freaked out. Makes more milk than the other side, and so lots of times babies will start to prefer one side over the other because one side may not be expressing or letting down as fast as the other or giving them as much milk. So it's very common for that to happen. It's hard. You can't really even it out. It's not going to even out. One might just make a lot more. It has more of a capacity. My daughter, my first one, by the time she hit 4 months old, Jade, And knowing her personality now, she was like in charge from the beginning, When she hit 4 months old, she was like, my right breast made twice as much milk as my left breast. It was just, that's the way it was. And she was like, every time I put her on the left side, she didn't want to have anything to do with that. She would cry, she would scream, she wanted it like instant gratification, like fast and furious. And so she refused to nurse on my left breast. I used to trick her where I would like nurse her on one side, and then like without moving her position, I would literally, when she was sleeping, like slide my breast to the other side to like put her on the other side, and she would literally be sucking and one eye would open and would stare at me like, what the hell did you just do? I know what you just did. She would scream. So it's very common. You don't need 2 breasts to breastfeed. You can make enough with just one. So when she was 4 months old, stopped nursing on the left side, exclusively breastfed her till she was 13 months old, only on my right breast. I was very lopsided.
And I've said this before in these live chats because, quite frankly, we have no filters. It's just like a man's balls.
Well, not exactly.
No, but lopsided. They're not equal.
They're not equal.
One is always a little bit bigger.
Because your body's
no
not
one is symmetrical.
You're not symmetrical. And
so everything's a little... One is
balls, breasts.
One's a little bigger, hangs a little lower,
Yeah, sometimes
it's what we have to suffer with.
Yeah.
With you have your boobs.
There you go. We have our boobs. And so, yeah, I mean, it works. And I mean, think about when people are nursing twins. You don't need 2 sides for one baby. You can have 2 babies, one having each side, and make enough milk. So you can just start. I even have moms who, like, if you have, like, sometimes you have one breast that keeps getting a breast infection over and over again, where that breast just has plugged ducts, and you've had multiple infections on one side, where I've helped them to make a decision to let one side completely dry up and just feed on the other side, because it's not worth all the breast infections that they're having. So that's an option too. Just know that if you stop feeding a lot on the side that makes less, or they're the one that they're rejecting, what winds up happening, this is what I didn't know 14 years ago. I was a midwife, but I wasn't a lactation consultant back then. I was delivering babies, I was taking care of people during pregnancy, but I didn't know everything I know about breastfeeding. It was after I had my kids that I became an IBCLC, and then that became my total focus in my career. But a lot of what I teach you is like all the stuff that I didn't know how to do, like all the mistakes I made. This is what I'm telling you is not what I did. I didn't realize at the time that once the milk starts to dry up because you're not emptying the breast, the sodium content of the milk increases and the lactose decreases. So what does that mean? Lactose is what makes your milk sweet, and sodium is what makes your milk salty. So as it starts to dry up, like quickly, all of a sudden the milk starts to get less sweet and more salty. And then they really don't want it. And I didn't know that till I actually tasted it one day. And one side was salty and the other side was sweet. I'm like, hell, that's the reason she won't drink from it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's actually, as you start weaning, it's one of the ways that your body helps the weaning process, is that if the milk starts to dry, the lactose content goes down, the sodium goes up, the milk turns salty, and the baby doesn't want any more.
You turn into a human salt lake.
There you go.
Fair enough. Someone also just said they saw me at Disneyland and they tried to say hi, and I just kept walking.
Because you're an
If
asshole.
I had heard you, you have to yell. You have to yell, or just come up and do this. Hi.
Hi.
Like, it doesn't bother me with. It's
Jamie is the friendliest
it is
person
still
I've
very
ever met.
weird. It is still very weird to me that people think I'm famous or whatever and like try to say hi to me in public, and I'm like,
you're
what?
the most approachable,
but
nicest
it doesn't
person.
bother me.
Yeah.
So if you see me at Disney or I'm running around, you see me at the King Super, you see me like at Starbucks,
Stop and Shop.
I don't care. Just say hi. I'm a human. You're a human. We're all humans. You have a job. I have a job.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. Like,
me too.
So
if you see me, if I ever leave my house and you see me somewhere.
Yep. The only times I leave my house are for work events.
Yeah.
Hi from Swansboro, North Carolina.
Hi.
Love watching your videos. So much information. Hi, Lindsay from Oxford, Mississippi. Hottie toddy. nursing 3 times a day, but now he wants to nurse a whole lot again, and I just missed all of that question.
That's why it's
Hold on. No.
Can you see it?
My exclusively breastfed baby just turned 1, was nursing 3 times a day, but now he wants to nurse a lot again. Will my milk supply increase for him?
Yeah, it's supply and demand. The more you empty the breast, remember, if the baby's nursing a lot, that means the breast keeps being emptied. The more the breast is empty, the more the signal to the brain, make more milk, and over a few days, you're gonna see an increase in your milk supply. Usually these cluster feedings or these times where your milk supply feels low, like they're going through a growth spurt. And during those growth spurts, they're increasing your supply by feeding very frequently. It's like the worst time to supplement or the worst time to take like frozen milk out of the freezer. What you wanna do is keep putting the baby back to breast, letting them nurse frequently, and keep that breast empty. It's totally a misconception that the breast fully empties or fills. What happens is, and I always explain it like a sink, like your breast is like a sink where it has a plug in the drain and it's always dripping. It's always dripping. So imagine if the plug wasn't in the drain and it's dripping, the breast would feel empty. That's like feeding.
Yeah.
Okay? If you stop feeding and you plug it up and it keeps on dripping, eventually over an hour or two, that sink fills up. That's what happens with your breast. But the body is always making milk, which is why you can feed your baby, fully empty the breast, and then if you try to hand express right after the feeding, you'll still see milk coming out. It will always have milk. They know what I'm talking about. Right? Right? Am I right? Am I right?
There we go.
Yeah. The back buddy? She loves the back buddy?
Yeah, we have a back buddy.
Joe's using one. Jamie's using the other.
My 3-week-old keeps pulling off during nursing, has bad gas. Is there anything I can do to help her stop because it is painful?
Yeah, you're probably overfull and oversupplied. Those two things are very typical signs of an oversupply. And so I'd be curious, do you have a lot of milk? Because one of the reasons why a baby would pull off frequently off the breast and scream and be gassy is that the milk is just shooting out. It's pouring out. The letdown's really forceful. They're gagging and choking on it, and so they keep coming off the breast, or there's so much milk, they're slipping off the breast. Like there's no way to hold the latch. It's very hard to nurse a baby when you're really full and engorged, and if you've got an oversupply, that's going to be an issue. What causes the gassiness is that the fuller the breast is, the more foremilk there is. There's foremilk, which is the milk that comes out first, and then there's hindmilk, which is the fattier milk that comes out last. Breast milk has a lot of lactose in it, that's the milk sugar, that is hard to digest without the extra fat. So when the milk is really watery in the beginning, a lot of foremilk from an oversupply breast, you're not going to have all that fat to help digest lactose, and the baby's going to be gassy. So that's why, like, having too much milk is not the answer. Like, people think the more the better.
Yeah,
the more the better. And I see more issues with oversupply than I do with a little bit too little. Well, when you're making a little too little, what it really means is that you just have to nurse a little more frequently. You're not really making too little. You just have a smaller breast capacity, and so you need to feed every 2 hours. And yeah, it becomes tiring. And yeah, you're like, oh my God, I'm up all night. But you're not dealing with, your milk is fatty milk all the time. The baby's satisfied as long as they're at the breast, and you're not dealing with latch issues the same way as an oversupply.
My daughter is 22 months and still nurses 10 times a day. Any advice on how to slowly wean, at least enough to where she will want more foods and sleep better?
How old?
22 months old.
Yeah. That's going to come down to, like, during the day, you know, make sure you're offering a lot of really great complementary food, all different foods, finger foods, things that they can eat by themselves. Distract her with that. You know, the more that you can keep her busy, especially in those daytime feedings, you know, try to start cutting those out first. Like, I wouldn't go right for the first morning feeding or right before nap or right before bedtime. Like, wait for the end for that. But start cutting out some of the midday feedings by offering different foods to eat, doing different activities, and distracting her from the breast to the point where the milk supply starts to decrease a little bit, hopefully get a little more sodium into that milk, a little more saltier taste to it, and not so much of a reward. You know, as the milk supply decreases, she's not going to be getting that gratification from it the same way. But it's just got to happen slowly. I mean, it's got to happen slowly. And, you know, of course, you know, 10 times a day, probably you're talking like 2-3 minutes, 10 times a day. It's probably like a quick, you know, snack and then back to playing or whatever she's doing. I doubt that she's sitting and nursing for long periods of time. So it's not where she's getting all of her nutrition from.
Somebody just asked me why I never recommend Graco. I don't never recommend Graco. The problem with Graco, I love their infant seats. They're great. The Graco Forever, I have never played with in person because I have not had time. They have not sent me one. I love all of them. We go to breakfast at ABC every year. I have nothing against Graco, but like I have to get a car seat to play with. So that's that. I have lots of CPST friends that really like the Forever, but I personally have never put my hands on one, installed it in different cars, and played with it. So I cannot recommend something I have never touched. That's my answer, if that makes sense. And I have not played with the Extendifit either. So that's that. But I will see them at ABC next month. Hopefully they can. And it's not, the thing is, it's not even like them not sending it to me. I just don't have time. I'm never home.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
He's really busy. He's always on there.
Hard.
I was so lucky to get him for 2 days that we got to go for massages and we got to hang out. He cooked us dinner tonight.
I did. I grilled.
I invited him to my house and I made him cook for me.
I grilled
He
dinner.
did great. Delicious steaks. Yeah, yummy. That was good dinner.
Oh, we had a good time.
Good dinner. It was fun today. We had a fun time. Does anybody have any like pregnancy or childbirth questions for me? Postpartum questions? Baby issues? I'm ready to answer those
what
questions.
humidifier do you recommend that is the most clean, won't grow bacteria? My favorite is Crane. Crane is my favorite. I have Crane all over my apartment. I have travel ones that I take because I get airplane throat because I live on airplanes. And you can plug it in or use a USB. So I have it on the nightstand at my hotel. I love Crane to me. They're just very easy to clean. The new Smart Drop that they have, also you can use it from an app on your phone. I've not used that feature a lot, to be honest. I've played with it, but I'm like, because it's not hard for me to get out of bed and hit a button. I'm not that lazy. But what I love is you can set it to a certain humidity level and like what you want, and it monitors the room. So you can have it going on and it will shut off and come back on as needed, which is really nice. I love Crane Smart Drop.
That is nice.
And it comes with a stand. It's not on the floor. It looks nicer. But I love Crane.
Somebody just asked a question about how do you know how much milk to leave for your baby? How much pump milk to leave? It's a question, again, just answered this on my wall this week about how do you know how much milk to leave when you can't see how much milk you're feeding? It's always like, I'm not sure, you know, and the idea that breast milk doesn't, the volume of breast milk, once the baby hits around 6 weeks, they're eating somewhere around 3 to 4 ounces per feeding on average, and it doesn't increase for the entire year or the rest of the time that they're nursing. That's like a big thing that people don't realize. Like this right here is like a 4-ounce feeding right here. That's about what a baby's eating the entire year. And you know, if you're thinking about how much to leave for your baby, the best way that I could explain to calculate that is typically people feed between 24 to 28 ounces in a 24-hour period. It's like 1 ounce to 1.25 ounces per hour.
Okay.
Okay. So then what you have to look at is how many feedings am I feeding in a 24-hour period? So say it's like 10 feedings in a 24-hour period, and it's 24 ounces. That's 2.5 ounces per feeding, right? The daytime morning feedings might be a little bit more. The nighttime evening feedings might be a little bit less. But that's how you kind of calculate. So if your baby's eating 8 times a day, that means that you're feeding more per feeding. If your baby's feeding less times per day, more time. If your baby's feeding more times per day, it's less per feeding. If they're feeding more time, I can't talk. I'm done.
You're fine.
So about 1 ounce an hour.
A lady just said she's having her baby. I think it was 3 weeks or 3 months. I missed it. Or assumed it's been 3 years since her last delivery. Any tips to help labor and delivery go easier? She's nervous. Like, what should she do?
She's due in 3 weeks.
I think it was 3 weeks.
Yeah. You know, the main thing is to start doing some relaxation techniques now. Like, make sure you're practicing some of that. One of the things that it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's like, any kind of meditation, any kind of relaxation, practicing those contractions. I find that's really, really important, because even if you've had other children, if this is your first baby, your second, whatever, somehow we forget what that's going to feel like till you're in the throes of it. Like, until it hits, you go, oh my God, I forgot how this feels. So you want to not like have a plan of like how you're going to deal with those contractions before they actually come. So you're not like trying to figure out, what do I do now? Practicing like a contraction coming on. Close your eyes and imagine the contraction starting.
Oh, next week, Becca.
Oh, next week. Okay, awesome.
I think that was Becca that asked this question.
Okay.
Next week.
Okay.
All right.
So start doing some practice contractions where you're, just imagining this is going to be my routine. The contraction starts. I'm going to get into this position. I'm going to relax my shoulders. I'm going to deep breathe. I'm going to imagine whatever it is that you're doing, whatever visualizations you're doing, and practice that so that you're like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. The contractions are coming. I know what I'm doing. The other thing is to make sure that you don't overdo it, like going for walks, doing all those things, moving around. That's all great because it's going to help to get the baby into the pelvis, move the baby down. But don't overdo it where you're exhausted. You're about to have like a marathon, Yeah. Labor, regardless of the length of it, is hard work. And you don't want to go into it completely exhausted. Make sure you're getting rest.
It's not called vacation. It's called labor.
It's called labor. So if you're not sleeping great at night, which is very typical, especially if your baby's due next week, you're not sleeping at night, your body's getting ready for what's coming. Okay, then you need to take naps during the day, even laying down, even if you can't sleep, but closing your eyes, resting your body, eating really well, getting really hydrated.
Greta, I see you. We're going to answer that after this.
Okay, being really hydrated. Those are all really important things to do prior to the birth. I also recommended something called evening primrose oil. Okay, that was something I started with my patients when I was a midwife. They would take evening primrose oil capsules about 3 weeks prior to their due date. Around 37 weeks I would start them. Evening primrose oil happens to be something it increases the prostaglandin production at the cervix. Okay. So it ripens the cervix for delivery. It won't cause you to go into labor, but what will happen is when the contractions actually start, the labor is typically a lot easier because the cervix is so ripened. Okay, prostaglandin is what ripens the cervix naturally. It's like the reason why semen actually has prostaglandin in it. So it's not even the act of sex that is the thing that helps to make
it's
labor.
The actual contact.
It's the actual deposit.
Just to go out there.
You need the deposit, okay? So no condom because it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But yeah, the semen has prostaglandin in it, but so does evening primrose oil will help to produce prostaglandin at the cervix. When I was if you have a midwife, you can talk about this with her because I used to have evening primrose oil in my locker at the hospital where I did all my deliveries, and I used to break open one of the capsules, or like little vitamin E. They have oil in them. Yeah. And then I would put it onto my fingers during the exam, and I would actually rub it onto the cervix during the exam. And it was like magic. The nurses got to a point, like literally the cervix would melt in my hand. Like they would go from like my patients would go from like 2 to 5 or 6, like just during the exam from just rubbing it on the cervix. So it was pretty incredible stuff. And if you talk to your midwife, they'll tell you that, yes, that's true. It's just one of those tricks that we know about. And the nurses it got to the point where they would see me coming down the hall with the Primrose, and they would start scrambling to put the carts together and get everything ready for the birth, because they knew like it could go really fast once I put the Primrose oil on. So talk to your midwives.
Wild.
Do a Google search about Primrose oil and in labor. It works great.
Also rhythm. When I was like going through classes, like one of the things I'd never thought about was like how rhythm is important, you know, and like movement and whatever, and like get a good bounce on the ball, do some kind of like swaying thing, whatever.
The more you move around, the more it helps the baby to keep moving into
and
the
it's just like,
outlet.
you once you have a baby, you put them on, you do the bouncing, you do this, it calms the baby down because it's inherent in a human. Like when I get into a car, I feel the vibrations of the car and I want to go to sleep.
Yep.
It calms me down.
Totally.
So any kind of like vibration and rhythm and whatever is very good. Oh God. Oh, question about burping. A lady had a question about burping on here.
Awesome.
So there.
Let's
Her
answer it.
burping positions are not working. She's tried everything she's ever seen. You have a different burping.
So yeah, I do have a different burping technique. Do we have a doll here still?
We did.
Okay.
We threw it.
All right, we threw
The
it.
pube head baby.
Stop.
That's what this doll's name is. Pube head
I
baby.
don't make fun of your baby.
I'm not making fun of this doll with pubes on its head.
Okay, so yeah, when it comes to burping, there's a couple things. It's the technique of how you're doing it, and there's also the timing of when you're doing it and how often. Both are important. So when you're nursing your baby, and let's get this straight, first of all, this whole misconception that breastfed babies don't need to burp, it's complete bullshit, all right? Sorry, just
we're all adults
it's
here.
Bullshit, okay? They need to burp. Anybody who swallows is swallowing air. Any baby that swallows, whether it's in the breast or the bottle, they're swallowing air. Now, granted, they're swallowing more air with the bottle, so you may hear a much louder burp with the bottle, but with a breast, they still need to burp. And if you don't get that burp out at the right time, you're just putting more milk down into the baby, and that little air bubble that's just this tiny easy burp that needs to come out starts going down into the intestine, and then it's going to take 3 hours for it to go through the intestine, and it's going to hurt. They're going to be gassy and all these other things. So it's important to identify the right timing for the burp, and the way that I identify the right timing, it's not how long the baby's been feeding, but the signs the baby's giving you when at the breast. So pretend I'm nursing right now, okay? The baby gets latched on, the baby starts eating. You'll see that the baby's pretty calm. Like once they get in a rhythm, they're kind of curled up and they're just sucking and focused and sucking, and they're not really moving much. Two things might happen. One is the baby starts to pull off, and this could be like really quickly into the feeding. Like it could be like, just right after the letdown, within a few minutes, the baby's like pulling and gasping, or, arching their back, or the baby starts to wiggle and move. What just happened is the baby swallowed a big air bubble. So it's not just like, okay, finished a side, now it's time to burp. You have to watch the baby. If the baby's all of a sudden arching or pulling off, that's a sign that your baby just swallowed. It's like when you drink like a beer or a soda really fast and that it hurts.
Yes.
Because you never drank a beer before.
I've never had a beer in my life.
Never too fast. Okay, so you drink a beer fast, and that air bubble goes in, and it's like, and you got to burp, right? Because you just swallowed really hard, and it hurts.
Can I make a really gross joke here?
Of course.
I'm going to make a really horrible joke, and then we're going to go back to actual good information. I was at a drag show, and it was, I think, in Nashville, Tennessee. This drag queen, this is horrible, so feel free to hate me when I tell you this story.
I'm going to have a drink here.
The drag queen said, "Why fart and waste it when you can burp and taste it?"
Ah, yeah, okay.
It's just about gas.
Okay.
You eat something, you got to burp it up.
We're back to the
Garlic.
Lunchables.
Lunchable poop.
If you missed the last session, if you missed the last session, maybe you can just taste it anyway.
That was so inappropriate, but I felt the need to share.
All right, so I don't know how I feel.
And my Facebook likes go way down. Oh, oh, Lord.
And I'm supposed to stay serious and answer questions through this, you know?
So about that burping.
Okay, so the baby arches, the baby swallowed a bubble. It's time to take the baby off the breast and burp the baby. Now, baby's gonna be pissed that you're taking them off because they're still hungry. Just because they need to burp doesn't mean that they're done, all right? So you take your baby off, and like I said, it could be like very soon, especially if you have a fast, heavy letdown, the baby needs to burp. You take the baby off, and the thing that I don't recommend is, what do we all get? We all see?
We all do this and the
Okay, and the padding. I don't recommend padding. Why? Because the baby needs two things in order to burp. One is the baby needs to be not crying and relaxed, okay? And the second thing is that the baby cannot be asleep. So you don't want to feed the baby into a coma and then try to burp the baby. You're not going to get a burp, and then they're still going to get that air going down. And you also can't have them crying. So patting them is just going to make them tense up. Like, that hurts. And people get like, you know, they're patting and then they get frustrated and then they're like patting a little harder and they're like, come on, you know. That doesn't get the burp up. You know, when you have to burp, like, does patting you like get the burp? You have to relax yourself.
You have to like fix your back. And
you have to sit up, kind of sit up. Relax your diaphragm, and then the burp comes up. Nobody needs to pat you. You're not like, come on, pat me, I need to burp. So the baby doesn't need patting either. What's happening is the baby needs to have a little bit of movement, just like Jamie talked about a minute ago about like when you're pregnant, the rhythm. Okay, the movement calms a baby that's crying at least enough to get a burp out. So the technique I use is I put my fingers, my thumb and my forefinger underneath their jaw. And it's not around their neck, as you can see, it's like under their jaw, and a pinky under their arm, which then stabilizes their head and their neck at the same time. Then I grab their butt, okay, and I move the baby up and down in a nice rhythmic motion. It's not so gentle that they can't feel it, and you're not shaking the baby either. It's like up
They're
and
not
down.
a maraca.
They're
not a maraca.
You're moving
Your
them
baby's
up
not a
and
maraca.
down. Up and down, okay? If the baby's screaming at this point, while you're doing this, you can go right in their ear and go shh, really loud in their ear. You actually have to do it louder than they're crying so they can hear you. So it's like, you can't be like shh when they're screaming. You need to actually go like that, shh, really loud in their ear. That's gonna stop that. You're gonna all freak out when you do this because it works every single time, okay? You do that, the baby stops crying, and your hand, see where my hand is? It's on the baby's diaphragm here, which means that if it's a really quiet burp, I don't need to hear it, I can actually feel it. I can feel the vibration. The baby will typically burp very quickly in this position, okay, very quickly, and then as soon as the baby burps, you put the baby back to the
That is
breast.
crazy, because I mean, again, like, I've seen you do this burping demo a couple times now in the years we've known each other, but I've always noticed that and that, but I've actually never noticed where your wrist hits. It is right there.
It's right there.
At their diaphragm.
At their diaphragm. And that's not just for me to be able to feel the burp. They actually, the pressure on the diaphragm is super important. And that brings up a good point, because when they're first newborns, this is not a difficult thing to do because they're not that heavy. But what do you do as they get heavier? You're sitting there, your arms aren't strong enough to move your baby up and down. You can do another position that's very similar. Take the baby and put the baby over your shoulder. But notice where my shoulder is now. Now my shoulder is on their diaphragm. You're not doing this. You're actually taking their arms and putting them up over so that my shoulder now is doing the same thing that my heel of my hand was doing. And then with the baby in this position, you move them up and down like this and on your shoulder, so a heavier baby, easier to do.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. You need to make like a 1-minute video.
I know I do.
On that burp and that burp, upload it to Facebook, and like, hello, likes and shares.
No, I know.
Because no one knows
Well,
this.
maybe when we do the bra fitting one, we can do it with some real babies. Because it's really great to do it with a real baby and see how different babies react. When I used to teach my live classes, this was a class called Predict, and I used to teach, and in the first couple times that we taught the class, I would do it with baby doll, okay? And I would show this, and I was so excited about teaching this because it works so well and it helps so much. And I would look around the room and everybody was just like not really that impressed. You know, they're like, okay, that's cool. And I said to Joe, I'm like, we need to have a live baby. Like next time, bring a live baby in here. Not my baby, like any baby. Just bring a baby in and I'm going to show them with a live baby. So I was so excited. The next class, we had this live baby there. And I'm like, okay, watch. And the baby, like, you know, I did the burping and then I did my, you know, soothing techniques. The baby went right to sleep. And I looked around, like, waiting for, like, all this, like, excitement. And they were just, like not impressed. One baby. Well, that was a fluke. It was like a staged thing. You know, it must have been a staged thing, right? Exactly. So I said to Joe, 5. I want 5 babies in my next class. Bring them in, line them up, and I'm going to do them one after the other like that. And that's what my classes used to be. People coming in with their live babies. Yeah, she's saying, ooh, yes. Yeah, we need some live babies, and we need some moms. We need to fit their bras. We need to burp their babies. We need a burping video. We need to do a burping video. Yeah. We're going to do it. Okay, and I'm going to do it with live babies because when you see this with a live baby and the baby's actually crying and I'm showing you what to do, there's nothing like it when you actually see this in person.
And okay? I will say real quick, there was a video like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, that got real famous and real viral real quick.
With that doctor?
With this doctor that did this shushing thing.
And it's so funny.
Same thing that she's doing here. But I've been seeing you do this for 8 or 9 years.
Because I've been doing it. So funny, when that came out, all of my students, so many of my students from my classes who went through all my live classes, because they sat through this, they've done it with their kids, they all started messaging me the video. They're like, he's using your technique. I'm like, yeah but
maybe he never saw it.
He's doing, and he did something a little bit different than what I was doing. What I do, you know, some people teach like soothing, some people teach, you know, just that part of it. I'm trying to incorporate not just the soothing, but the feeding. How does it relate to feeding, burping, soothing? It's all together. So it can't just be about soothing the baby. What if the baby's hungry? Yeah. Like it's got to all kind of tie together. And so my techniques all tie together between the breastfeeding, the burping, and the soothing.
Sarah Stayert, with all of your question marks, how old should baby be to stop burping?
How old should baby be?
When should you not have to worry about burping them anymore?
You know,
when are they going to figure it out naturally?
I think the second half of the year, they're going to burp themselves. You know, they're going to go to the breast themselves. It's like you're not really latching them. They're you're just lifting your shirt. They find it themselves. They need to burp. They're burping. They're able to self-soothe a lot more. By the time a baby is around 6 weeks to 3 months, they're doing a lot more self-soothing than a baby that's under 3 months. So I would say up until 3 months, for sure, you're paying attention to those cues for burping. After that, maybe a little bit less. If you're not seeing an issue, the baby's not gassy, and the baby's coming off and giving out a good belch after that, probably you're doing fine. But with a little one, you do want to be burping.
This is good. Amanda, not Ned. What about babies that have serious spit up? Not so serious that it's affecting weight gain, but just a lot of spit up. Will this burping position help keep milk down?
That is actually how many, I've gotten babies off of Zantac. And, okay, like babies that are like serious issues because they've been diagnosed with reflux. Zantacs are medicated. They're coming in. Because mom's like, I don't want to be giving this medication. The baby's constantly spitting up. The baby's crying all the time. My doctor just said it's reflux and need medication. And the truth was, for the majority of those babies, I do the technique that I just showed you, and they come right off the medication. Because it's not reflux. It's actually just not getting the burp out. An oversupply, right? So those are the babies that are going to actually be swallowing a lot more milk, more than they need. Think about it. When it starts to hurt and they don't get that burp out, you know what the baby does? The baby sucks more. They're trying to soothe that pain. So they go back onto the breast and they're drinking more, when actually you need to stop. It exacerbates the whole thing. And then when the burp finally comes, it comes up with all the milk and they're spitting up.
Exacerbate is an SAT word. P.S. and I'm a big fan of it.
That was a good word.
It
does exacerbate it. It does exacerbate.
You exacerbate the problem.
Don't ask me to spell.
Your baby has such forceful burps that he projectile vomits. Is he drinking too fast?
I would slow it down a little bit. Here's the thing. Sometimes you have babies, like very rarely, where they're spitting. they really do have reflux and they're having weight issues. Like literally they're not gaining, their failure to thrive. I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. For all you guys, I know your babies are gaining weight. Anybody's asking this question right now is probably just seeing those, we call them happy spitters. They're just babies that spit up a lot. You're going to go through a lot of clothing. You're going to go through a lot of clothing for yourself, a lot of burp pads and all that. But sometimes babies just spit a lot. They do have, some babies do have a more immature like sphincter. So the milk does come
I
up.
had pyloric stenosis, so I had the surgery as a baby. I have the scar right here.
Yep.
Puked up everything.
Yeah, so it could, and it might not, it could be that, and it could just be that the baby needs to mature a little bit more. Smaller feedings, more burping, positioning in a more sitting up, like nursing position, like we were showing before, either laid back nursing or sitting up to feed, not laying the baby down. And after the feeding, keeping the baby upright more versus laying them down. All those things are going to help. But I think number one, if you're seeing a lot of spit up, it's just a lot of overfeeding without a lot of burping. The burping's even going to slow down the feeding a little bit so they have time to just eat what they want to eat versus it just pouring into them.
Very sensible.
We have to do a video for that.
Yeah.
I know. We'll be talking about
just
that.
a quick burp video.
I know. You guys
It'd
try
be
that.
so
I'd be
good.
so interested to know. For you guys who just heard
Do
everything
your
I
own
talked-
videos. Do your own burping videos with her technique and post them on her wall.
Yeah, show me how it's working for you.
Yeah.
I'd love some feedback from you guys who just heard what I said. Try it out and tell me if that helped you. And you know, that'll give us the information that we need to know how to answer more of your questions. Sometimes I need to hear what's going on or what's not happening so I can tell you how to readjust.
I'm going to move up so I can read some more. How do I get my 13-month-old daughter to stop pinching while she's eating and just sitting and holding her?
Those little hands. You know, I think for little babies, you know, when a little baby starts to nurse, they need the breast. Okay, that's actually a reflex and there's a physiological reason for that. The baby needs its hands around the breast because the kneading actually helps the milk to flow.
Yeah.
So they're actually doing it, and it's all part of nature's process of like the baby nursing, the baby kneading. But as they get older and they start pinching, or they're grabbing your other nipple, like that happens too, you know. I remember that.
I don't know that.
Yeah,
I know it
I
happens.
do.
But
I do, and they do too. They know what I'm talking about. But the baby will be grabbing the other nipple. Sometimes wearing like a nursing necklace, something that they can play with.
Yeah.
You know, something else to grab onto a
the
toy.
wandering hand.
So that you get their hands off your body and onto something else because they're kind of eating and wanting to play at the same time.
So look at like chew beads or chompy
She
cheek
pinches
or...
under your arm.
Oh
They're
God!
funny.
Get a necklace.
They're funny.
Get one of those silicone teething necklaces.
Yeah, give her something to do.
Yeah. Just tried the front hold burp with my 8-day-old. She's already passed out. I'll keep trying.
Yeah,
Very
once she's asleep, it's not going to work. Okay, so just let's add to that for a second.
Okay.
If you see your baby arch, it's time to burp. If you see your baby starting to fall asleep, it's time to burp. Before they fall completely out, you take them off and you wake them up to burp. Because once they fall asleep at the breast, that's what just happened. She's not going to get that burp out now.
Yeah.
She's not going to get that burp out now.
Hold on. Moving my baby to formula due to bad latch and I can't fix it. I've tried and bled over this issue. I'm sorry. How can I wean so I don't have breast issues?
Continue to pump. You can't do this overnight. Okay, so if you're still producing milk, just trying to no, so two things. If you try to just do this cold turkey where your breast is really, really full and you don't start pumping a little bit, and on top of that you have any kind of cuts or nipple abrasions from the what you're describing, the bleeding nipples, that's where bacteria can enter the breast. A full breast with an access point is a really bad combination and a setup for mastitis. So you really need to keep that breast emptying and slowly wean down. There are things you can can do to wean, to make weaning easier. There are teas that you can drink. Earth Mama makes a tea called No More Milk.
Yeah.
Okay, that has sage in it. Sage is going to help to decrease your milk supply. You can start drinking that while you're pumping less and less and less. So it's not just the sage tea, but it's both together. Ice packs to the breast, you know, pumping just enough to have some relief so the breast's not totally full, and then ice packs and cabbage leaves. Okay, so take a green cabbage, like go to the supermarket, like an actual cabbage, and put it in the refrigerator so it's nice and cold. Take one of the leaves off the cabbage, and I use a rolling pin to kind of mash it up just a little bit so it's like a little bit more moldable, and then take it and put it into your bra and keep it in there for like 20 minutes on both sides. You're going to see a huge difference. It helps the milk to reabsorb back into the lymph system so that you don't have to pump it out, but it actually decreases your supply. But you know, if you still want to breastfeed, this is the thing, like I get, like it's so painful, you're bleeding. It's one of the most painful things. Like when you've got bleeding sore nipples, you just don't want to do this anymore. And I get it. And if you've made that decision that you just want to go to formula and you don't want to breastfeed, then these are the things, what I just answered you on weaning is the way to do it. But if it's because if the answer is that I would love to still breastfeed, that I wish I was still breastfeeding and I'm not, and I'm going to wean because I'm bleeding, then the answer would be make sure you're seeing a lactation consultant and somebody as an expert in latch. Somebody's looking at what's going on. Does the baby have a tongue tie?
Yeah.
Does the baby have a lip tie? What's going on with your nipples? What's going on with is it actually is it an oversupply? What is the issue that's causing this to happen? Is it just a poor latch? Is it that you're not holding the baby close enough to the breast where the baby's sucking right on the
There we go.
Okay. The baby's sucking right on the tip of your nipple and not getting the nipple way back in the baby's mouth. The baby needs to be really far back, and the nipple needs to be far back in the baby's mouth. All of this is on my Simply Breastfeeding program, by the way. There's a whole chapter on it. And on the last stream, we gave away 10 viewings of my program.
We are giving them away still. So go
back
back and watch the first video.
All you have to do is tell me which class.
Oh, here we go. This is interesting because you brought this up earlier. Do you think it's possible for me to get my 8-month-old back to breastfeeding after 3 months of bottle feeding? And we will, for the sake of this question, say bottle feeding exclusively. I don't know if you're still producing or whatever, but let's do...
It's been 3 months.
You're still producing because she's pumping, we would say, or she's not producing.
I'm gonna say this. So if you've been pumping this whole time and the baby's exclusively getting breast milk and it's just about getting the baby back to breast, now we're talking about one issue, which is just relatching.
She's still producing.
She's still producing. Okay, great. So the best way to get yes, it is still possible. It is definitely possible. And it's also possible, even if your milk supply is not what it fully needs to be, you can relactate. But in this case, you're talking about just getting the baby to latch back on. The best way to do that is to do lots of skin to skin with the baby. Your baby needs to be super close to your body. You need to be wearing your baby like in a carrier. You need to be like, get a carrier where you could take off your top, strip the baby down, and have the baby skin to skin as much as possible with you. Put the baby to your breast. Let the baby just lay there, eat from the breast. If you can, work with a lactation consultant, because a supplemental nursing system, which is where you're actually giving the baby breast milk at the same time as they're latching onto the breast, could help, because the baby's gotten so used to a fast gratification. The baby may not suck long enough to get the letdown. Or you can try using a pump to get your letdown first and then latching the baby on. I would say that when the baby's super hungry, it's not the best time to do it.
Sherry Enman, I see your question. That's next.
Okay. So I think that, it's really, really doable. It can help. It's just that you really need to have the right support and somebody to help you with it. Sometimes a nipple shield is necessary. Again, using a lactation consultant to help you with that, because the baby's used to the silicone of a bottle on the nipple, a nipple on the bottle. Sometimes the easiest transition, if you can't get them to go right to the breast, is using a shield where it's really familiar, but now you're back to nursing at the breast, which eventually you'll be able to take away and then just be nursing at the breast. So
I've already totally forgotten your name, and I apologize, but someone said LC or IBCLC. Doctors are, usually not that educated or trained in this field. So what are the differences? What is,
Okay, so for a lot of what I've been describing, Sherry asked the question. For a lot of the things that I've just been describing, which were low milk supply issues, uses of supplemental nursing systems, relactation, lip ties, like we've been tongue ties, things like that. I'm talking about an IBCLC, and that is my certification is an IBCLC. The differences between like a CLC or a lactation counselor, and LC is more of a lactation counselor. I've been using the term LC. I mean IBCLC.
Yeah.
An LC is a lactation counselor. An IBCLC is an international board certified lactation consultant. There's a big difference in the amount of education and training and continuing education, recertification. It's actually one certification process for the entire world. We actually all take the exam on the same day of the year across the entire world, and it is the standard for it's the highest level of lactation consulting there are CLCs. It's a much less training. It's like a week, and it's great for latch issues and a few different things, but then they also need to refer to an IBCLC for more complicated cases.
CLCs that I know are, doulas and whatever that also went this education.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
what I almost went through CLC training just for the education aspect of it.
Yep.
Not that I would ever use it as like, I'm a CLC, come talk to me about your problems, but just from an educational standpoint.
Yes.
So most of my doula friends are CLCs as well, just to give basic information.
It's to give basic information and to be able to counsel moms on breastfeeding. Let's face it, they can still counsel moms. They're counselors. But to be a consultant with that certification, it's a pretty rigorous process. You're talking like 5,000 hours of clinical practice, not breastfeeding your own children, but actually working with moms for that many hours. Most of them are RNs. I'm an RN. I'm a nurse midwife. It was a lot of years of working with breastfeeding moms just to have the prerequisite to do that. Then there's a lot of courses that you need to take in lactation, and then the boards.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's different. And if you have a complicated case, I highly recommend an IBCLC for that.
Yeah. What about it, like human anatomy also you study as well?
Yeah, I have all of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Okay.
I'm actually recertifying next week. I'm taking the exam.
Everybody has to recertify.
And I think it's great. I mean, I don't think it's great when I'm up at 5 a.m. studying every day to make sure that I take this exam. But it's every 10 years we recertify. We have to take the exact same exam every 10 years. It's been 10 years for me since I became an IBCLC. Again, like I said, I was a nurse midwife, and after I had my own kids, and I struggled so much with breastfeeding, and I thought, here I was a labor and delivery nurse, I was a midwife, I had been doing it for years before I had kids, I had delivered thousands of babies, been there for thousands of births, delivered 600 in my own practice, and then I struggled with breastfeeding because I didn't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
I had opened my store, and I had all these moms coming to me and saying, can you help me with breastfeeding? And I thought, well, then I'm going to become an IBCLC and add that certification so that I have the proper knowledge to really help them. Because it couldn't come from my own personal experience, and it didn't come from my nursing experience or my midwifery training.
No.
We didn't get that. Like in midwifery school, I learned how to write you a prescription. I could write you a prescription if you had mastitis. I knew how to do a breast exam. I did them every day.
But you didn't know mechanics of
like half the stuff most of the stuff I told you right now, we never learned that.
Yeah.
And we always have a few nurses watching, and I'm like, did you ever learn this in nursing school? We didn't learn any of this. And even in midwifery school, I have to say, most of it was focused on birth, pregnancy, birth. I mean, and we learned a lot. I mean, learned everything I needed to know.
Yeah.
But with breastfeeding, it was kind of like, here's the basics, but never into the in-depth to really be able to consult.
I mean, on the flip side of that, it's like, with what I do, my background, how I got into this was retail.
Yeah.
And I went off what I was trained on in retail. Strollers, it doesn't matter. Carriers, it doesn't really matter. High chairs, it doesn't matter. Car seats, it matters.
Yeah.
And I was trained in retail with car seats completely ass backwards.
That's it.
And most stores don't really train their employees on car seats.
No.
And I fully think you, as a retailer, you have to have CPSTs on staff. Because I did all this research on my own, thank God.
Yeah.
You know, so I wasn't lying to parents.
Yeah.
But when I went through CPST training...
It's a life and death situation.
I was like, this is the actual information. Like, I take it very seriously.
For sure.
And it's like, I actually know what I'm talking about now compared to like, their legs are over the edge. They're too big for their seat.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Those are two things. I mean, breastfeeding and car seat safety. I mean, two really important, you know, issues and concerns and needs for the health of your child. I mean, let's face it, it's what's going to keep your child safe and healthy. And so it's important to be talking to the right people. That's why I love that we get to do this together. Because I feel like you're getting the information that you really need. It's not just about, you know, anybody can post anything. Anybody can breastfeed and then offer some advice and everybody becomes like the expert. But honestly, not everybody's the same. And it drives me crazy when people are posting stuff and then it's only having to do with their own experience. It makes it makes everybody else feel bad because it's like, well, that's not me. And I'll tell you right now, I do share my own personal experiences, but I never give you advice based on what I did or what I experienced. Never. When I
first met Cherry, you know, 57 years ago, the one thing that stuck with me that she said, my job as an IBCLC is to tell you what to do with your milk. Yes. If you're going to breastfeed or if you're not, you're still going to have to do something with your milk.
That's right.
That's an IBCLC's job.
That's right. We are the experts in breast milk.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether or not you're going to feed your baby
nurse,
or not,
or how do you stop it and keep yourself from pain?
Either way, you want to talk to somebody.
Hi, Elise. By the way, for those of you who missed our first hour, Elise from Evenflow, tomorrow is her birthday.
Happy birthday!
So go over to Evenflow's Facebook and wish Elise a happy birthday because we love her.
Love you. Happy birthday. Awesome. Yay.
See you in a few weeks. So what else? How do you keep your supply up if you get pregnant while nursing?
Good question. Okay, so, you know, for thousands of years, babies have nursed while their moms are pregnant, okay? And all over the world, this is the case, and including this country more and more, continue to breastfeed while you're pregnant. It's totally doable. What you might notice, a few things when you're breastfeeding and pregnant, is that your nipples are more sensitive, so that a lot of moms complain of the pain while they're breastfeeding and there's really nothing you can do, because that nipple pain has nothing to do with your latch or your position, has to do with the hormonal changes of pregnancy. So you may find that you're a little bit more sore, and that there's nipple pain when you're latching your older child. The other thing too is sometime around the second trimester, you might notice a big dip in your milk supply. Hopefully your child's at that point eating what?
Camille's like, all caps, how do you make it not so painful? It hurts.
I know.
15 weeks.
I know. It's hard to say. The one thing I could say to do, which I always say when nipple soreness is there, is hold the child closer. Okay, the closer you hold your baby to your breast, they're kind of, the nipples farther back in their mouth, they're not sucking directly on your nipple. So holding them closer, as soon as they start to like clamp, or you know, they're showing signs that they're done, take them off. Don't let them linger, because they'll linger. What they're going to do is linger to the tip of the nipple, and that's going to hurt. And definitely nipple. So that's going to hurt. So holding them closer, keeping the feeding short, looking for like those nutritive sucking, and you know, just making sure that the baby's eating. If the baby's just hanging out at that point, take them off, because your nipples probably can't handle it. This is if you're pregnant. And hopefully you're at a point where your child is also taking all kinds of complementary foods. They're eating solids, so you want to be offering that as well in that second trimester where your supply could dip. After that second trimester, you'll start to see it starting to increase again. The milk's turning into colostrum. We covered this in the last hour. Totally fine to keep on feeding the baby. And then to feed, you know, once the baby comes, to tandem nurse, that's totally fine too. The thing you want to just remember is that early in the first early weeks with a newborn, the newborn needs to be getting the milk first. So make sure that you're offering your breast to your newborn first, letting your older child nurse second. And they're really great if you have a really big, like say you're really engorged after the delivery, your older child can come in really handy. It's very useful to maybe express a little of that milk by giving the older child the breast first to soften up the breast for the newborn. So yeah, totally fine to breast. Nobody, you know, this whole idea that your doctor might say something, you know, silly like, you know, you need to stop breastfeeding because it's going to cause preterm labor, because, you know, nipple stimulation causes oxytocin to release from the brain, and that causes uterine contractions, and there's this whole concern.
All of humanity has been pregnant and nursing.
Listen, oxytocin released during pregnancy does not cause you to go into labor. Okay, so you can't give someone oxytocin. You can't stimulate oxytocin and get them to labor early. If you're going to go into preterm labor, if you have a history of preterm delivery, if you have a history of like recurrent miscarriages, then you might want to think about it. But even then, we don't really see that it's an issue. But somehow the doctors do talk about it a lot. Like
my OBGYN told me not to get pregnant in the first year of my child's life. Is this sound advice?
It actually is. Does it happen? Of course it happens. Should you plan it that way? My advice is no. Actually, no.
I'm like, it happens.
And here's why. I just answered one of the reasons why. You're going to see a dip in your milk supply sometime around the second trimester. So say your child is less than a year old, okay, and your baby's like really relying on your breast milk for that first year of life, and now you have a dip in supply. You're kind of stealing from both, and that's kind of how I feel, is it's kind of taking from both children. On one hand, you're taking from the child who's nursing, who really needs to be focused on for that first year by, you know, the pregnancy and everything else. On the other side, your body doesn't have the nutritional stores built up again from going through pregnancy, where the second child could suffer from that. So yes, child spacing is an important thing. Does it always work? No. In an ideal world, yeah, we space our children, but does it always happen? No. Sometimes you get pregnant and you'll be fine. I'm not saying that your babies are going to suffer for it or that it's going to be awful. But if you have a choice, I would wait till at least a year. Spend that time with the child you have in front of you. Give that baby the full year of breast milk, and then try to conceive again. You know, the ideal spacing is actually 3 years apart. You know that? Like, really? That's actually the ideal spacing. So sometime after the second year, to wait till after the second year of life, and then pregnancy, and then delivering, they're 3 years apart. That's ideal to get all. It's actually being able to nurse and then have a little bit of time without nursing, and then pregnancy again. You build up all your stores, your iron stores, your calcium stores, all that again.
Interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, that doesn't happen for everybody. But
my sister and I are 3 years apart, and we're a hot mess.
Yeah, there you go.
So, you know?
I can't see. It's all blurry. And I'm not even drinking alcohol tonight, and it's all blurry. Yeah.
It's just, it's hard on the. I'm gonna upgrade to the 7 Plus.
I can't see.
Just a little bit of a bigger screen. Bless.
Look.
I haven't nursed in 1.5 years, but I can still express milk. Is that normal?
Yes. Yeah, it's normal. Some people can keep on expressing. I'm assuming that when you try to hand express, you're getting some milk out. That can be very normal. What I would definitely recommend, since it's been a year and a half, is to see your doctor and have your pituitary gland checked, because that can be an issue causing you to have high prolactin levels that are abnormal, and that could cause the milk. But if that's all normal, then, you know, some people just keep producing for a long, long time.
Joanna Thibodeau, biting. It's your favorite topic.
Biting.
Sherry's
I
favorite
know we
topic.
could do a whole night without biting, but there we go.
Biting advice. She hates it. She hates it so much.
Don't say that. I don't
But
hate
biting it, it's just...
They hate it more than I hate it.
Everybody wants to ask about biting, and there's...
It's
like,
hard. I hate it because it's such a hard thing to answer.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a real thing. I know you're dealing with it. You know, the kid starts biting. What do you do? First thing is to start noticing, like, stay on top of it. Don't not pay attention when you're nursing, because they're going to clamp down before you had a chance to, like, really jump out of the way. So if you start to see your child, like, stop their suck and start coming to the tip of the nipple, put your finger in their mouth and prevent that from, like, you know, clamping down. Put your finger right in there. Finger in, and, like, prevent the jaws from clamping down on your nipple. Take your baby off right away. As far as, like, if you want to prevent the biting too, again, like we were just describing, hold the baby close to your breast, when you're bringing, and this is again a part of what I teach in my Simply Breastfeeding classes, how the baby's head needs to be angled coming to the breast. If you want to hold your baby close to the breast, their head can't come to the breast straight. You know, can you see what I'm doing? When I bring the baby, this is the breast and this is your baby's face. If the baby's face is straight and they come to the breast, they can't breathe.
They have to be up.
Okay, so you want to bring the baby to your breast with their head angled like this. When their head is angled like that, see how you can see the nose now? Mm-hmm. Okay, you can hold them really, really, really close and they can still breathe. And they actually can swallow easier with their head up. Like, everybody put their head, if you put your chin down like this, you try to swallow, that's really hard to do. If you keep your head up, the milk's flowing faster, the feeding's more efficient, everything goes quicker, the baby can breathe. You never have to, like, move your breast out of the way. You're not going to suffocate the baby. Again, in the class I teach online.
And it also helps them get more of the breast tissue.
Oh, everything. They're leading with their lower jaw and their tongue versus their upper palate.
The baby fell on the ground. We can't see the baby. The baby fell on the ground.
Not a real baby. So. But, you know, the biting, holding the baby really close to the breast throughout the feeding keeps the mouth open. It's really hard to clamp down when they're being smushed into your breast, and the only way to smush them in is to angle their head.
And when I went through my breastfeeding classes at the birth education center I worked at, one of the things that stuck with me, you know, I have sisters 20 years younger than me. I've seen babies nurse my whole life, but the IBCLC that taught my class, IELIC, has Nelson in New York. Wonderful. If you live there, need help, go. But she's like, it's called breastfeeding, not nipple feeding.
Yes.
And I always thought babies just took the nipple in and went for it. The nipple goes way back, and they have to get all this tissue in because the sucking and everything stimulates the tissue and gets everything going.
Absolutely. You can't do that unless you actually... Sorry, I just...
we're all burping. I'm yawning.
I'm swallowing this. See? And he didn't even need to pat me to get that burp out.
I didn't need to
I was so
rock her.
relaxed. I was just so relaxed. And I wasn't crying. So, you know, there you go. It just came up. Sorry, excuse me. I don't even know what I was talking about.
I cry at night for other reasons. Okay, Cupid.
What was I just talking about? Do you remember?
We were talking about breastfeeding, not nipple feeding.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the only way to do that is to hold the baby really close to your breast.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't hold the baby close, the baby's going to be on the tip of the nipple. That's going to cause nipple soreness, you know, pain. It's actually not going to help the baby to express enough milk out of the breast. It's one of the reasons why babies can't express. Can't get the breast is not producing or expressing.
Someone
enough.
just said, just realized you switched to rosé from the white.
No,
She's
not drinking alcohol.
This is, bring this bottle over here. This is what she is drinking. It's a fruit juice. She's not drinking.
I'm not drinking alcohol.
I'm drinking the Sauvignon Blanc.
Because I switched from the mango flavor.
She's drinking water.
Now I'm drinking, and I was drinking Pellegrino, and now I'm drinking the watermelon, which is really, really good.
I love a good watermelon juice. We had another question about why we don't like lanolin. We've had several of those in this video.
Oh my goodness, okay.
So let's go for that.
Yeah, lanolin has, you know, it comes off, do you know where lanolin comes from? It comes off the skin of the sheep.
It's like, it's sweat.
Yeah, it's like the sebaceous exudate. You like that word?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sebaceous.
It's the sebaceous exudate that comes off the skin of the sheep. It's the fat. It's And where do toxins accumulate in your body? In your fat. Okay, so these are not like usually sheep that are like.
Hold on. Is it because you're pregnant? She is not pregnant.
You knew that was going to come up.
I actually did. We talked about it earlier. She's not pregnant.
I'm not pregnant. I'm just dieting, and I'm on a very.
She's on a new health plan.
I'm on a health plan
That's
right now
it.
to cut out. I cut out all for 40 days. I'm not drinking any alcohol. I'm not drinking any coffee. I'm not eating gluten. I'm not eating dairy. I'm not eating fats. I'm not eating sugar.
In other words, I give up.
I'm just getting really healthy, and I'm detoxing my body, and I'm losing weight. And I was really sick this whole summer. I was in the hospital a few times.
Yep.
And you know what? Not worth it. I want to be feeling good, and so I'm on a program with my really good friend Roger Sahari, who's my chiropractor, and he's taking really good care of me, and he's helping me with this program. So I am not drinking alcohol, and I feel really good.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So
and I'm not pregnant. No more kids. Not for me.
Yeah.
Just yours. I'll be helping you with yours, but
back
not mine.
to why no lanolin?
No lanolin. Okay, so the toxins accumulate in the fat in the body, and that is what we're scraping off the sheep's skin and then rubbing it on our nipples and then putting our baby's mouths on it, okay? So lanolin is something that I would not actually recommend to use at all for that reason, not to mention the fact that it doesn't work, okay? It's very thick. It's very sticky. Yeah. I remember having...
There's also zero skin healing properties.
There's no skin healing properties. It's more like a sealant.
Yeah.
And it actually hurts to put it on a sore nipple. You have to like soften it up and smush it around in your fingers. I used to have to sit on it to like warm it up. You know, like I'd be in the hot, I'd sit on it and then I'd get it warm because I couldn't even squeeze it out of the tube because it's so thick.
And I will tell you again, working at Bye Bye when I first started, we only had one nipple cream.
Yeah.
And it was lanolin based. That's what we always told people to get. We did not know better.
Yep.
I did research and I was like, this is actually crap.
It's crap.
Why aren't we putting Mother Love, Earth Mama, Angel Baby,
that's right,
non-lanolin based stuff with calendula?
Yep.
You know,
absolutely.
olive oil, like whatever on.
The only thing I would ever use on my nipple other than breast milk for a sore nipple is a nipple cream that is completely organic and that has calendula in it, okay, and a lanolin free. So if you look at some of the best nipple creams out there, like the ones Jamie just said from Mother Love or Earth Mama, Angel Baby, those actually say right on the label, lanolin free, completely organic, and they have calendula in it. Calendula is an herb that's really, really healing to the skin, so it's gonna help to prevent the breakdown and also deal with an open breakdown of the skin. So it's great stuff. That's one of the things somebody asked about what to take to the hospital.
You also use that nipple cream from Earth Mama or Mother Love as lip balm.
Oh yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
We actually use it on for lip balm if you have a rash or a cut or anything.
Or like Mother Love, their green salve.
Yeah, their green salve is
the
really
best.
good. Yep.
Green salve is like brilliant.
Yep. And I had my appendix out a couple months ago over the summer, and I used the C-section salve from Earth Mama on the little incision.
On the scar.
Oh my God, it worked so good. So that's a really good one. If you had a C-section, the two things I love for birth from Earth Mama are the C-section salve.
New Mama bottom spray.
And then the bottom spray.
New Mama bottom spray.
That's the bomb.
I keep it in my fridge. I use it as aftershave and toner when I need it. It's cucumber and witch hazel.
It's so good.
It's for your lady bits after you deliver.
It works so good.
But for guys, what's hysterical is years ago, I asked Melinda, who founded Earth Mama, I was like, your stuff is so good. When are you going to come out with a line for men? And she emailed me. I wrote her on Twitter. And she emailed me and she was like, P.S. This is what my husband uses and how he uses it.
Yeah.
So I knew what products to use of all of them for myself.
Yep.
So those are my two people right there. Mother Love and Earth Mama.
Love them. Love
That's
them
it.
both. Yep. And I love that bottom spray, by the way. It's fantastic.
And the
someone's asking about coconut oil. That works too. That's great for your nipples as well.
Oh, my leg is getting sore. Oh, I'm tall.
Earth Mama works for everything. Awesome. Fenugreek for supply. Does it constipate babies?
Does it change the color of milk? I swear my milk is blue and green now.
Huh. Yeah, no, I haven't heard about fenugreek changing the color of your milk, although that is possible, I guess. Sometimes it has to do with more the bluish tint to the milk could be because your supply has increased. Remember earlier we were talking in the last session about the more milk you're making, the more fore milk you'll see, and less of the fatty hind milk. It'll take more to get to that point. If your breasts are less full, you're making more fatty milk. More fatty milk looks like more white in color. You know, it has more of a white color. Fore milk has a bluish tint, and it could be really blue. And I've seen some pictures where you can see two bottles pumped from the same mom on the same day, like one first thing in the morning where she pumped all her fore milk, and one later in the day where she pumped her hind milk. And so if you're taking fenugreek and that's to increase supply, and then it's working, that could be causing the bluish tint.
Someone said the spray is amazing for hemorrhoids. Not speaking from experience at all. Nope, not me. No.
Speaking from experience.
I've never.
Speaking from experience.
I've never had a hemorrhoid. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I know many people in my life who had.
Joe's laughing because
There's no shame in a hemorrhoid. Come on.
Oh my
that
God.
should be like one of those inspirational photos.
And the thing about
we need to be like a deer running through the forest. It just says no shame in a hemorrhoid.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that it's not just women. Everyone gets hemorrhoids.
Everybody does.
There you go.
Get a squatty potty.
Yeah.
Get a squatty potty.
But she's talking about after delivery.
Yeah.
I had that bad after my first baby. It was worse than anything else I had. And the bottom spray was fabulous.
Yeah. My mom had them pretty bad. On the way to Michigan for Christmas one year, we had to pull over and get a donut pillow from my mom.
It's so painful.
And you better believe,
It's so painful.
I mean, I was in like 10th grade, 11th grade when that was going on, so I did not understand, and all I did was give her grief.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that's what we
Just
do
like the
when we're
milk
young.
truck story I told you last night. It's inappropriate.
Yeah, it's so sad. It hurts so much, and you know the reason that it happens. It's like varicose veins. You know what hemorrhoids are? They're varicose veins in the rectum.
In the butt.
And and you know when you're pregnant, all the veins, everything's relaxed. And so the blood can accumulate. It's not the little vessels and the little valves inside the veins are just relaxed and they're not pumping the blood away. It's one of the reasons why you'll get swelling in your feet. It's one of the reasons why some people will get varicose veins in their legs, and then also the reason why you'll see hemorrhoids during pregnancy or the birth from pushing. So that's what causes it.
Cassie said she used her boppy as a donut after having the first.
That's a good reason. That's actually the best.
That's a really good reuse.
You want to know what I use my boppy for? Because I'm not a big boppy fan. I feel like they're really too soft. The baby sinks. You cannot get the baby into the right position with a boppy. They're good for other things. I feel like they invented that pillow for other things and then they decided to use it for breastfeeding. But it's not a great breastfeeding pillow. It's not firm enough.
They have a pillow now that's reversible and it's very firm on one side.
And it's more firm? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually really nice.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's also the thing with like the breastfeeding pillows. My breast friend is great. It gives you that back support. But what I think what a lot of people get mixed up on is all of these nursing pillows are different widths, different thicknesses, and it all depends on your torso height and your boobs.
It does.
And so like my sister went through all of them.
Yep.
And was like, well, this one was great. You'd never think like Baby Olay would make a great nursing pillow, but it worked really well for her. Yeah. There's another company called Sugar Baby. Yeah. That is her favorite across the board, her favorite nursing pillow. Yeah. But it all just fits differently. Yeah. You know?
Well, and then one of the things I liked about the Breast Friend, and it's been around forever. Yep. So it's just one that I've always used and I use it in my classes. And I used
to wear it by my baby. I used to strap it on while I worked all day.
And that's
because it gave you back support, and I would use it as an arm brace.
But if you're using my Breast Friend pillow, what you want to do is make sure that you're not keeping it down on your lap. unless your breasts are down by your
Yeah.
lap, the pillow is supposed to be sitting up under your breast, so it actually will be off your knees. You're raising it up to your breast and then strapping it on and tightening it. So this one will actually adjust to where you want your baby to be. Because I really like to have the baby up at the breast level, especially as a newborn, so you're not having to support their weight, but the baby's coming directly to the breast. But yeah, there's so many different pillows, and you don't even need a nursing pillow, really. A lot of people use like bed pillows, and they're totally fine with it. Totally fine. So
yeah. How long? I can't see. There's no timer on Facebook anymore. How long have we been on?
a long time.
Well, oh, I'm gonna pretend you're drinking wine. A long time. I feel it's like time to shut it down.
Okay.
We've been on for a couple of hours.
Oh, my children just came home.
Her daughters just got home, so that's the actual answer. We're gonna close
and
down.
And they weren't like out gallivanting.
Oh, an hour and 20 minutes. We'd have to shut off
so
anyway.
You know, let me just clarify that my girls didn't just come home by themselves. They were with Grandma. Okay, so hi, girls.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks, Mom.
So yeah, they weren't just out roaming the streets. We didn't like kick them out of the house. They were just
out. At Grandma's. So we are going to shut down. Thank you all for hanging out. It has been a very good night.
Awesome.
With both live broadcasts. We will see you next month in Vegas.
Vegas, baby. We'll both be there together.
And that will be a very different experience for you all.
I'm sure.
So make sure you go follow her Facebook. It's linked in my caption. Make sure you go. And we're going to shut this down and just hang out. Yeah. And then I'm going to go to New York tomorrow and do some more work. So thank you all. Can I mention one more thing?
Yeah. I'm going to be doing a giveaway starting tomorrow on my page for Lullaby Earth.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so I just want to let everybody know if you want to enter. It's for the Breeze, the Lullaby Earth Breeze. It's the pad for the mattress pad, the breathable mattress pad. And we love Lullaby Earth. Yeah. And I'm going to be doing a giveaway. So if you guys wanted to come join me on my page, come follow and look for it.
What are we doing in Vegas? A giant baby gear trade show where we all lose our minds.
And having some fun.
And then I go home and I'm sick for 3 days because it's exhausting.
Yeah, we'll be walking a lot, seeing a lot,
it's almost 1 million square feet, the trade show.
It's crazy.
It's huge.
It's totally crazy.
So, that's where I found the pocket last year. So
you do find the best stuff there. It's great to go explore, and I love all the new stuff that comes out too.
Yeah, the trade shows are fun.
The little things that small companies that you wouldn't see anywhere.
Yep.
Great stuff.
So see you all next month. We'll see you on our respective Facebook pages. Thank you all for hanging out. Now go to bed. Good night.
Love you guys.
Bye.